Kia ora and welcome to the show, Tamatha Paul. Kia ora. We have the police portfolio, police spokesperson for the Greens. So we got you here to talk all things police. And when did you find out? This is not like that sounded far too casual a tone for the question I'm about to ask. But we found out 6 o'clock last night on One News, breaking news, this whole thing about what's happening with the IPCA. When did you find out about it?
The same.
Same.
Yeah. When they released the report.
So as someone who's like, in Parliament, an MP, and also the police spokesperson, what do you do at 6:05 when you're like, holy shit, what's going on? What are your actions? What do you do?
Well, we kind of knew what was going on because of the court appearance last week of Skimmings. So we knew broadly what was happening.
Okay.
We didn't know the IPCA report was going to come out, so had a read through that overnight, and it wasn't very surprising what they were recommending, but it was pretty disgusting reading through what had happened.
Yeah, well, and it's obviously everywhere today, no matter where you look. It's the main story, and I'm sure it'll be all over the news tonight and probably go through the weekend.
That on the 1 year anniversary for the apology to survivors of abuse and state care, that it's not their voice that is making headlines and front pages today. It is, people like Javon McSkimming who committed atrocities against those kids too.
So most of us have got like the headline story. You've been in the House today. I heard you asking questions to Minister for Police. What else do we need to know today that perhaps at 6 o'clock last night wasn't clear in the initial drop on the news?
I think what people need to be focused on is the recommendations from the IPCA. So they've basically said, there's changes to legislation that need to be made, that the IPCA need more resource and support. And I think that is what people should focus on, because obviously the minister apologised today and made a statement, and all of that has happened. But now it's really about making sure that they follow through and do some of the recommendations that they've been asked to do. But we obviously want them to go further. But one good thing about what happened in the House today is that the minister did commit to a cross-party approach to delivering these recommendations. And I think that's a pretty big win, because it means he will have to work with me and Labour and others to address real problems within the police.
In this age of tribalism, especially amongst political parties, has there been any sniff or any concern anywhere that there's some finger pointing going on to do with parties who were in control of the police, or are we really going it stops at the senior police and there's no responsibility above that?
So it was only Labour and Greens that spoke in the House today on the police and on this case. I don't get the sense that there was any kind of blaming or point scoring. I think there's been some rightful scrutiny and criticism of the former police commissioner.
Yep.
I understand that there's been comments from people about, past Labour governments' responsibilities in appointing Costa, but I don't think that's materialised in here, at least.
Which is probably the result as voters and taxpayers that we want. We probably want the government and the opposition to now get on with it and sort this shit out, as opposed to any point scoring. If there was some genuine smoke there, cool, investigate it. But if it's just finger pointing, that doesn't serve anyone any purpose at all. Now, last night we talked about this, Tamatha, and my lovely wee friend Chewie, who is not with us right now, he made a really, I thought, insightful view, which was you got a whole bunch of shit not that long ago for daring to say, quote, for a lot of people, this is having police turn up, this is about patrols, but for a lot of people, the police makes them feel less safe. Now, Chewie made the connection, and all credit goes to him for the thought that, hey, if this has happened amongst police, obviously what Tamatha said was correct. For some people and some police officers, makes them feel unsafe. How do you reflect on that today, looking through the filter of the IPCA findings? And have you had any sort of acknowledgement from anyone who was throwing smoke at you when you did say, hey, for some people, sometime, guys, police aren't the best response?
I have been asked that today. Do I feel vindicated with the report coming out? And I want to make it really clear that whether this happened or not with Javon McSkinnings, the observations that I made earlier this year were true and still are true, regardless of today's report,
Yeah,
because
sure.
those comments were based actually in the Understanding Police Delivery report, which was an independent report that police collaborated with, fully cooperated with this panel, and they were the ones that found or confirmed the existence of structural racism and bias within the police. And they're the ones that have kind of raised the alarm on the way that police interact with people who are in high levels of mental distress. So today is today.
Yeah.
But I already knew that that there are people out there that don't trust the police, regardless, because this is not the only time that something like this has happened. This reminds me of what happened to Louise Nicholas. This reminds me of all of the young women who have come to me and told me, I was sexually assaulted and I went to the police and they didn't believe me. So this is kind of like an extreme version of what we already know exists, and we always knew it exists. It's just that the Prime Minister said that it was absolutely crazy. The Minister of Police said that it was nonsense, that it was divorced from reality, and they really have to acknowledge this week that there is some truth and some substance to those claims. And I actually think the thing that makes it more true, more than this report, is actually the breath tests. The 30,000 falsely recorded breath tests by police and the 120 police that are under investigation for putting those false tests in there. Like, that's a perfect example of what I was saying. The fact that police collected and recorded tens of thousands of photos of innocent young Māori children on their devices is another example of it. And there are more examples. And I don't even think we needed that IPCA report today to confirm that those views were true for some people.
Yeah, but you're right though, because this is what you're saying for some people. But so you said something in the House today talking about police. Some police can be part of the obstacle, especially for victims. And if you had said that 6 months ago, based around what you said around the beat cops, they would have been at you. I suspect today, you saying that they're not. This goes to show that they're acknowledging what you said previously was true for them and is still true today. But the difference is they now have Jevon, Mick, Twat a lot to put that filter through themselves.
Exactly. And the more I guess important point of that line, that police can be barriers or obstacles to justice, is that those weren't even my words. Those were the words of survivors that I met with this morning. And, they're talking about abuse that happened back in the day where, they would go and disclose it to the police and police would actively stop them from pursuing justice because, you can't have been abused because that's, that's a care facility. They're there to look after you. Or, that's a teacher or a preacher or a pastor. They couldn't have hurt you because they're good people, So, yeah, it's just in the context of today, in terms of it being like that National Day of Apology, I just think police need to do better.
Yeah. How do you feel today? And I'm only talking about today because how this government handles this will be seen over the next several months. But what they're saying today, this government, and what they're planning on implementing from this IPCA report, are you pretty happy and pretty okay with how they're responding? Or is there still some gaps where they should be doing more?
There's definitely gaps where they should be doing more. I appreciated the tone in the House today. Like, I think there wasn't a defiance or a denial of what has clearly gone wrong. And I appreciated that, because there's been many times where I've said to them, hey, there's these issues with the police, and they've just laughed in my face. So I appreciated the tone of it. It doesn't go far enough though, and that was what I wanted to focus on in my speech today, is we want all police to have body cameras.
Yeah.
We want the IPCA to be able to actually direct, every tier of police up to the highest rank. We want them to be able to discipline and discharge police officers where they investigate them and find corruption or misconduct. We want them to have legitimate power. We want them to be better resourced so they can investigate more than 2% of the total complaints that they receive. And we want them to have the power to direct the police commissioner himself. So we just want the IPCA to have far more power. We want body cameras. We also want a real scrutiny and interrogation of the amount of power and discretion that police have currently as well.
Hey, look, thanks for giving us some time today. Just one more quick question. It's a different topic, the boot camps. You asked Minister Chewie today about the boot camps and are they going to roll out this? Evidence shows, again, another failed experiment. You also, speaking of the anniversary of the apology to victims in state care, you were saying to her something like, I'm paraphrasing, how will you feel in several years from now when you're having to apologise for rolling out this today? I just wanted to give you a couple of minutes before we wrap up for you to speak to the question you asked of Minister Chewie and this idea about rolling out these boot camps.
Yeah, so the final evaluation report came out for boot camps last week, and what it said was what we thought was going to happen is that boot camps don't work. Military style discipline, punishment, whatever you want to call it, does not work. The report shows that it was the therapeutic interventions that help young people to turn their lives around. And so I was trying to give the minister the opportunity to say, actually, yeah, on reflection, we shouldn't keep going down this dead-end pathway that we have tried before and experimented with in the past that hasn't worked. Because what people need to remember is just because the boot camp pilot is over does not mean that the boot camps are over, and that the bill to legislate boot camps and a whole range of other things are still going through Parliament. So we will continue to lobby and pressure the minister and the government to drop this idea of short, sharp shock treatments for young people who have offended, and to just ditch the military approach. I mean, if the army are telling you, of all people, that approach doesn't work, maybe we should listen to the people for whom that is their whole life,
Spokesperson for police for the Greens, that is Tamatha Paul. Tam, thanks so much for joining us today. Appreciate a few minutes, and keep fighting the good fight, yeah?
Will do. Thanks, Pat.